Welcome back to the channel, friends. Today we're opening 3 different chapters of raw, real-life confession, each one pulled from the darkest corners of love and loss. First, a father's heart stops in its tracks when a hidden romance is revealed during a lockdown that forced the whole family under one roof. Next, a brother's devotion to his sister leads to an adoption that shatters a long-term partnership, leaving him to choose between blood and love. Finally, a couple forced apart by a global pandemic discovers that distance can sometimes bring the truth we've been avoiding. Buckle up, because these stories are raw, emotional, and full of hope. The night the lights flickered on in the living room, I heard muted giggles that didn't belong to any of the usual shows. My son's arm was draped around his roommate, and the way they instinctively pulled away when they saw me made my stomach drop. Their eyes met mine, wide, panicked, pleading for a moment of privacy. In that instant, the warmth of the home I'd built over decades turned ice cold. Those just friends jokes I'd laughed at for weeks suddenly felt like a veil, and the secret they'd kept under my roof was far deeper than I ever imagined. My son, now 20, has always been my quiet pride, a survivor of a turbulent childhood who grew into a thoughtful, independent man. He moved across the country for college, but we kept our bond tight, visiting each other whenever possible. When the pandemic hit, he returned home, bringing his Canadian roommate, a shy, polite guy who quickly became part of our daily routine. Meals, jokes, late-night movies, that was the surface. Beneath it all, I remained oblivious to the simmering affection that was growing between the two young men, hidden behind casual banter and shared playlists. Weeks went by, and little things started to stitch a pattern I could no longer ignore. A whispered babe slipped into conversation when I wasn't listening, a lingering hand on a shoulder that lingered a beat too long, and the way they positioned themselves on the couch as if rehearsing a scene for a movie. Their laughter softened whenever I entered the room, and occasional stolen kisses behind my back felt like secret performances. I kept telling myself it was just youthful affection, but the consistency of those intimate gestures painted a clearer picture of something far more serious. One early morning, I heard a soft rustle from my son's bedroom and, out of habit, pushed the door open to check on him, just as I had done countless times when he was a child. Inside, the two lay tangled together, breathing in sync, completely at ease with each other. The sight struck me like a wave of cold water, the room transformed into a stage where I'd been an unwitting audience all along. I closed the door quietly, my mind racing with questions: should I confront them now, or protect the fragile peace that had somehow settled in our home? I chose compassion over confrontation. After a quiet breakfast, I thanked them for trusting me enough to stay under my roof and gently expressed my support for whatever they were navigating. Their relief was palpable, the weight they'd been carrying seemed to lift off their shoulders. Months later, they lived together openly, and our family gatherings have become brighter, more inclusive. This experience taught me that love can blossom in the most unexpected places, and that acceptance can turn fear into a deeper, more authentic sense of family. From a hidden romance, we shift to a brother's painful decision to adopt his sister after tragedy, a choice that tore his long-term relationship apart and forced him to confront what love truly means when it's stretched between duty and desire. When I signed the adoption papers for my 8-year-old sister, my girlfriend's eyes hardened into something I'd never seen before. She whispered that my new priority made her feel like an afterthought, and the room seemed to shrink with every word she uttered. The love I felt for my sister, who had become my entire world after our parents passed, clashed violently with the love I thought we shared. Tension built until a heated argument left us on opposite sides of the living room, each demanding the other make an impossible choice. My girlfriend and I had been together for 3 years, building plans, dreaming of a future home, and sharing weekend getaways. She thrived on spontaneity, while I craved stability. When my parents died, I became my sister's guardian, a role I never imagined I'd have to shoulder. The adoption paperwork arrived months later, and a surge of responsibility washed over me. Initially, my girlfriend seemed supportive, but as I began spending nights at my sister's house, her affection waned. I found myself torn between the love I'd cultivated with my partner and the undeniable duty to my sister. She started canceling dates, citing work fatigue, yet she would scroll through my social media, noting every photo with my sister. Her jokes grew sharper, mocking my parenting attempts, and she became resentful whenever I mentioned a doctor's appointment for my sister. The warm, daily texts we once exchanged turned brief and transactional. When I finally asked for reassurance, she answered with an ultimatum: it's either me or her. That silent accusation hung heavily in our apartment, turning every shared space into a battlefield of unspoken expectations. The ultimatum forced a painful crossroads. I chose my sister, and she left, taking with her months of shared memories and a lingering ache. In the months that followed, I focused on healing both my sister's trauma and my own. Therapy helped me rebuild trust with my family, and I found a new circle of friends who respected my responsibilities. Today, we celebrate birthdays together, and I've learned that love can expand without diminishing another. The heartbreak remains, but it's become a reminder that true love isn't a zero-sum game. From family sacrifice, we moved to a lockdown romance that turned a breakup into a renewed commitment, showing how isolation can force us to confront what we truly need from each other. We broke up just as the world shut down, the silence of the pandemic echoing the emptiness in our apartment. For months later, sharing the same tiny kitchen, I realized my heart hadn't stopped beating for her. The realization hit when she laughed at my terrible attempt at a Sims baby glitch, and I felt a spark I thought was long gone. The isolation forced us to sit with our fears, to see the cracks we'd tried to hide, and ultimately to ask, could love survive the longest quarantine of all? We had been engaged for 2 years, juggling demanding careers that left little time for each other. The constant hustle bred resentment, and we finally decided to part ways, believing space would heal the wounds. The pandemic turned our separate apartments into solitary confinement, each night filled with unanswered messages and lingering doubts. Yet the shared memories of late-night gaming sessions, homemade cheesecake experiments, and whispered future plans kept resurfacing during quiet moments, reminding us of a bond that might still be worth fighting for. During lockdown, I noticed her texting me about DLCs for The Sims, a game we used to play together. She surprised me by borrowing my laptop, and we spent an entire day solving the mystery in Strangerville, laughing like old times. She baked a blueberry cheesecake that I clumsily helped with, and the simple act of teamwork felt intimate. Each small gesture, her sharing a meme, my offering to pick up groceries, hinted that the walls we built were crumbling, even as we tried to stay apart. One night, after a Sims Try for Baby glitch, we finally sat down and spoke openly about our fears. I confessed I still wanted her to stay, and she admitted she felt the same. We decided to give our love another chance, this time with honest communication as our foundation. Today, we share a small apartment, cooking together, and planning a future that includes both of our dreams. The pandemic taught us that distance can reveal what truly matters, and that love, when nurtured, can grow stronger after the storm. Betrayal, loss, and unexpected love shape our lives, but each story shows that truth and courage can rebuild what seemed broken. Whether it's a hidden romance, a family sacrifice, or a lockdown reunion, the common thread is resilience. What would you have done in their shoes? Share your thoughts below, hit the like button if these stories resonated, and remember, you're never alone in navigating the messy, beautiful terrain of the heart.